To each their own. I'm not saying I'm an orchid queen or a guru. All I know is I've kept these bad boys alive for close to 5 years now, and I've never had a problem, and I've never used an ice cube. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about orchids. Orchids are a super interesting plant. They're actually considered an air plant, which grows on the side of trees, so they technically don't need soil. And when I talk to people about orchids, and why do they talk to me about orchids? For some reason, I can actually keep these suckers alive. I kill houseplants, I kill succulents, all the stuff in our garden, that's all him. I just marvel at it. But for some reason, I'm able to keep these bad boys alive. And I think it's just because I don't give up on them. So today we're gonna talk about what to look for, how to care for them, we're gonna transplant these bad boys, and what to do when you think you've killed them. So orchids tend to bloom for a long period of time, one time a year. I've noticed that a lot of the times the flowers will last forever, but once they die back and the stem dies back, those bad boys can take up to a couple years to come back. And that's where people think they killed them. So if you just keep on watering your little plant, as long as the leaves are green, I think everything will be okay. So let's get into what happens when your stem starts to die back. So if you can see here, I have one orchid that has died back. So it had pretty white flowers, it bloomed, the flowers dropped, and now you can see that the stem is starting to brown. All you're going to do is take a pair of scissors or shears, but what's really weird is that you want to make sure you wash your scissors. Orchids are really susceptible to bacteria, so if you use like dirty shears that you just got done cutting other plants with, you're gonna wanna wash them. What we're gonna do right now is we're going to take this entire stem off down to the very nub. So we're going to cut it as close to the, whatever the hell this is called, we're gonna cut it as close to that as possible. We're just gonna take that bastard right off. And we're also gonna check out the leaves. So if you can kind of tell, we have leaves that are kind of wrinkled and super flimsy. And then we have these, I'll lift you up a little bit. We have these gorgeous leaves, right, that are all bright and plump. So it's okay to take off the leaves that are all wilted and wrinkly. This plant is that way too. So this one probably needs more water because the top leaves are kind of getting wrinkly, but that's okay. This side is all plump. I'm just gonna take these bottom leaves right off and the plant is gonna be okay. So how are we gonna do that is the same way that we cut off our stem. We're gonna get as close as possible and we're just gonna cut that right off. And I'm probably gonna cut off this one as well. And, sorry, I kind of lost you with the camera. And I kind of want to cut off this one, but I'm gonna leave it and see what happens. So I'm gonna just leave that. I'm gonna do this bad boy. And it's okay to just leave 2 top leaves. I think the plant's gonna be okay. So we have this one too. See the top leaves are all plump. Ooh, look at this shiny little one. All good? I'm gonna chop off these 2 leaves down here and let the rest of the energy go back to these leaves. don't tend to like to cut off any roots, but this one is like really long. So we're just gonna go over here, cut it off a little bit. And you can tell when the roots are kind of dying back too, because they're wrinkly, they're kind of hard, and they don't have any green to them. See how this root has a little green at the tip? It's a fresh root. After they're all nice and fresh and cleaned up, I use some orchid plant food and I spray the entire leaf, front side and bottom side, and I spray their roots on top as well. If you have flowers on your plant, do not spray this stuff on your flowers. You want to just keep everything on the leaves and in the roots. This just kind of perks them up a little bit and gives them some nice nutrients to keep going strong. I forgot to mention that before you use this, you want to make sure you water your orchids after cleaning them up. A lot of people tend to put an ice cube in there. To each their own. I'm not saying I'm an orchid queen or a guru. All I know is I've kept these bad boys alive for close to 5 years now, and I've never had a problem, and I've never used an ice cube. What I like to do is I like to soak the entire plant. So I'll take the water and I will just soak all the moss inside, and then I'll just drain it out, and I'll probably do that once every 2 weeks. And I've never seen a problem. I usually like to water my orchids when I start to see their leaves kind of start to wilt or wrinkle, because if you do it too often, that's when you will kill the actual leaves, which will then kill the plant. Also, let's talk about the leaves. So this plant, see how it is a more of a yellow leaf? This one's a little bit darker green. The yellow side means that the plant is getting too much sun. So this one was super yellow, and I realized that it was getting too yellow. And so I brought it down. They sit on my garden window behind me. And I just like to rotate them. Every time I clean them up, I'll put them in a different place, so that way they get a different light or a different amount of exposure to light, which kind of keeps them happy as well. So this bad boy was sitting on the very top shelf, and so I moved him down below, and the leaves are starting to darken up, which is what you want. You don't want yellow leaves because that means there's too much sun and then the plant will die. But we're gonna talk about what you would do if you did have to transplant your little beauties. I use Miracle-Gro Orchid Potting Mix. It has just a bunch of bark and really just a bunch of bark, which is what you want for your orchids anyway. You don't want any soil, right? Because they're an air plant. All you want is something to cover them up a little bit so the roots have somewhere to kind of snuggle. And then but you want air and you want water to get through. You don't want water to be hanging in there anywhere. And then you want to use the moss. I find I get the decorative ones. Just makes it fun. Okay, so now we are going to transplant our little new orchid. Look how tiny that is. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to stick some moss on the very bottom of the pot and line it. If you notice, my pot has holes in it. It's just kind of like the standard orchid pot. I don't know why. We're just going to line the bottom with the moss, kind of cover the sides. This is going to hold the potting soil or the bark. Add a little bit more moss around the sides. I'm just going to take this little thing out. They tend to have a little plastic cover around the plant. You're going to want to take that off. You can use whatever they gave you or not. I'm not, because I have decorative moss. Okay. And then we're just just gonna put some more moss on top. You just potted yourself some orchid. What? I don't know. After, you're just going to soak it a little bit. And this is how I water all my orchids. I don't really worry too much about the ice cube, like I said before. And all of that water, excess water, is just gonna come out the sides. You're just gonna let it drain for a little bit. And that's it. There you go. And then if it's in a container like this where it doesn't have a drainage hole on the bottom, I'll just let it sit for about 5 minutes and then I'll just tip it over and let all the water run out. Don't give up on your orchids though. This little bad boy had no stem, no flowers for 3 years, y'all. 3 years. And I just saw that the leaves were still green and it was still going strong. So I just kept going, and then all of a sudden this little tiny nub was coming out and I was like, that's probably a root. Turns out it was a little bit darker than the other roots, so I let it go and it turned into this beautiful stem, which then gave me beautiful purple flowers, and I totally forgot what color they were, and it was so exciting to see them again. So just keep your leaves green, keep your little plants happy, and they'll bloom at the perfect time that they need to, when your heart needs a little smile. Corny, I know, but it's true. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any other questions about orchids, please leave a comment below. I will happily answer them as best as I can. Going to remind you, I am not an expert. This is just what I do that have kept my 7 orchids alive for a very long time. So until next time, please like and subscribe. As opposed to, maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't give up on your orchids though. This little bad boy